This mystical story, which could well be embodied in the most terrible film, happened to one girl in the summer. Her friend, whose name was Linda, and with whom the heroine of this story was very friendly. The girls were like sisters, they spent a lot of time together and shared secrets. Her by no means old grandmother died suddenly. Since it was necessary to prepare for the funeral, the two girlfriends went to the village where the grandmother lived to help. Linda's grandfather after the funeral said that he needed to go to the city in order to issue a death certificate for his wife and settle some more business and left. Linda's friend said goodbye to those who had gathered for the funeral, and Linda herself at that time accompanied the neighbor's boy to his house. After all the visitors dispersed, the girls began to clean the houses. A few hours later, having finished cleaning and washing all the dishes, the friends lay down to rest in the hall. They were tired during the day and fell asleep very soundly, when suddenly in the middle of the night Linda woke her friend and asked in a frightened voice if they were alone in the house. The fact is that the house was very large, and it seemed to the awakened girl that Linda was simply frightened in the middle of the night or saw some kind of terrible dream. Only Linda herself assured that she had not imagined or dreamed anything, but that she clearly heard as someone called her by name. A friend assured the frightened girl that it just seemed to her, because there really was no one in the house, but it all seemed to her because she was tired over the past day and was nervous about the death of her grandmother. Linda listened to her friend and, having calmed down a bit, turned on her other side in order to continue sleeping. And then, in the silence of the night, a heart-rending cry was heard, from which the ears were blocked, and the blood in the veins of Linda's friend froze. Linda herself screamed piercingly and loudly. Her friend immediately rushed over to her. Linda, eyes wide open in horror, was already silently pointing to the window. A friend looked in the same direction and went cold. There was someone outside the window, a dark silhouette was clearly visible. Immediately, she pushed this thought away from herself and, looking more closely, convinced herself and her friend that it was just the light from a street lamp falling on the window like that. Linda's friend did not believe in the existence of something otherworldly at all, such as ghosts, demons and ghosts, but the granddaughter of the deceased herself looked very frightened. She invited her friend to move to one of the bedrooms for the night, in which there was not a single window. After a short discussion of what had happened, the girls, having made the bed in the hall, went to this bedroom. The rest of the night passed quietly. In the morning, the phone rang. It was Linda's mother, who inquired about the girls' affairs and asked to light a candle in front of the grandmother's photograph. Having entered the hall where there was a photo of the late grandmother, the girlfriends were shocked, because the bed that they made at night was dismantled. Several pillows lay on the floor, the sheet was wrinkled and part of it lay on the floor, the blanket fell out of the duvet cover. After asking each other if they dreamed that they were making this bed, and, making sure that the bed should be made, they tried to light a candle in front of the photo of the deceased. Only they did not succeed, because the candle was constantly extinguished. Having abandoned this business, the friends went to prepare breakfast, and then each went about her own business. Toward evening, Linda's grandfather called and said that he had to stay in the city for a few more days. Upon hearing this news, Linda was frightened and asked her grandfather to come as soon as possible, but grandfather replied that he would return as soon as he could. Her friend was not afraid, she just felt out of place, having learned that they would stay with her that night too. Linda alone. After spending some more time doing household chores, the girls got ready to go to bed, made a bed in the same bedroom and fell asleep. In the middle of the night, Linda woke her friend again and said that she clearly heard the front door open and someone enter the house. The girls thought that Linda's mother had arrived because her grandfather could not quickly return home, but when they went out into the corridor, they did not see anyone. Also, there were no other shoes besides girly sandals near the hanger. Returning to the bedroom, the friends found that a candle was burning in the hall. Linda immediately touched her friend's hand and said that someone was sitting in the chair that stood near the photograph with the candle. The girl looked up and saw something in the chair. On the feet of the one sitting in the chair were slippers, and it was dressed in a long skirt. The girls froze at the sight of this picture. Linda grabbed her friend's hand. Gathering courage and restraining herself very much not to start running out of this room, Linda's friend held out her free trembling hand and turned on the light in the hall. The girls stood and looked at the rocking chair with big eyes filled with fear and incomprehension. Nobody was sitting in the chair. Linda became hysterical and immediately went to look for the keys to the house, only they were nowhere to be found, as if someone didn't want for the girls to leave. In addition, the front door was closed, although none of the friends remembered locking the door with a key, and the only way to open this door from the inside was with a key. Frightened and deprived of the opportunity to leave the house, the girls turned on the lights throughout the house and went to the bedroom, where they tightly closed the doors and, having barricaded them with several chairs, after a while they forgot themselves in an anxious dream. The next morning, a friend of the granddaughter of the deceased woke up to find the chairs pushed back and the lights off throughout the house. Naturally, none of the girls pushed back their chairs or turned off the lights in the house. The whole next day the girlfriends spent on the street, they cleaned the yard, took care of the garden, etc. Since none of them wanted to return to the house, which inspired horror. So another day passed and evening came. Lena offered to stay overnight on the street, but her friend replied that it was even scarier on the street at night than in a creepy house. We decided to sleep in the same bedroom. As soon as the friends began to fall asleep, someone knocked on the door. This time both girls heard the sound, and Linda's friend was about to go open the door, only Linda did not want to let her near the doors at all. A friend explained to Linda that it was still not late at night and one of the neighbors could come. Linda agreed with the arguments, and the girls went together to open the door. Linda at the door asked who was there, but her answer was silence. Not a single sound was heard from behind the door, not a single dog barked. It seemed that the village had died out. Without thinking twice, Linda went to the window, froze near it and said in a barely audible whisper that someone was sitting on a bench near the house. A friend at this time opened the door. Seeing what she was doing, Linda shouted loudly for her to close the door. There was no one behind the door and on the bench, but there really was some kind of ominous silence on the street. There was not even a wind, only someone's big black cat was sitting on the porch of the house. A friend closed the door and, looking carefully at Linda, stated that the girl was either mocking or joking, because in fact there was no one on the street, and no one was sitting on the bench, to which Linda burst into tears and said that she actually saw someone then on the bench. As soon as the girlfriends climbed into bed and got ready for bed, there was a sound of pouring water in the kitchen. Linda's friend volunteered to go check what was going on. She went into the kitchen and was dumbfounded. Linda's grandmother was standing near the sink, dressed in what she was buried in, and as if nothing had happened was washing dirty dishes. She paid no attention to the girl who entered. A few seconds later, having come to her senses a little, the girl ran out of the kitchen with a screech, ran into the bedroom, tightly closed the doors behind her and threw herself on the bed, sobbing. Only half an hour later the girls decided to go to the kitchen. They did not see anyone there, only the unwashed dishes that the girls left the day before disappeared somewhere. Lena opened the cupboard for kitchen utensils and found clean plates from which water was still dripping. That night, my friends couldn't sleep. The next morning, Linda's grandfather returned home, and the friends immediately returned to the city. The girls talked about what they saw and heard in the terrible house, only their parents did not believe them at all, saying that the girls had a very violent fantasy. A week later, Linda's mother came to visit her father and said that something was wrong in the house. After 40 days, everything stopped.
Thank you for your attention. Subscribe to the channel.